this is Steve Domenico from Domenico 101 MMA, and today I have on Bryan Rossi, who is a veteran amateur fighter. He's trained at Sityodtong. He's trained with so many killers out there. He's been in the game a long time. He had his last fight 2016, and after that fight he did some thinking and he stepped away from MMA as far as competing in the cage, but he has a lot to say about what's going on around New England and what he sees, and we're going to talk to him about the inner workings of MMA in New England. So Bryan, welcome to the show, man. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing excellent, man. I can't wait to talk to you. I mean, we do shoot the shit behind the scenes on Messenger and stuff, and it's great always talking to you. You tell me a little bit about stuff going on. So let's talk now and get some of your knowledge of what you've seen. So basically, give us a little background of you started your amateur career when, in like around 2009 or so.
Yeah, I took my first fight back in 2009. It was a long time ago. It seems like it was 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been training for a long time. Started off in Dragon Lair back in like 2000. Real young. Moved on, trained at MSA2 for a while, then moved on to there, training with Rivera. I actually met the owner of BST at one of the first spots I trained at, which is Orlando. We go way back. He's an instructor today, and I kind of want to get where he's at. He's at a great place and he's doing well, and I want to get to that kind of place and do the things he's doing. Spent some time over at Peter Welch's, Tim Burrows, trained with Rivera for a long time. Trained with Carlos Gahina, great jiu-jitsu team over there. And, moved to the Team Sityodtong and then Juniko, and it's been great, man. I love those guys, Team Sityodtong and Juniko, great guys. Some of the biggest killers I've ever seen, man. Some of the best fighters I've ever seen in person, and had the chance to exchange information with, man. And it's been great, dude. I love the journey, and it's been fun,
Yeah, you're training fight. Well, you are coaching or training fighters nowadays. Like you had a fighter recently that just performed on the Premier card. So you're actually in the game and you're starting. You're starting to get some fighters out there. Is that the way you're going now?
Yeah, I was coaching a little while back. Before I started fighting again back in like 2016. And I worked a lot with Miguel Cuevas. I worked a lot with him when we first started, taught him how to box a little bit, taught him some kickboxing, and, you've seen what he's done ever since,
Yeah.
He went on and learned some great jiu-jitsu, and, I've been coaching for a long time, man, whether it was, older women just trying to get in shape or, fighters or whatever, I've been doing that for a long time. And I love coaching, man, and, I've been working with Diego, and Diego's been looking great. He had a tough fight against Arslan, so many guys didn't want to fight him, a guy with like that, big muscles, a little bit of technique, nobody wants to fight him,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's one of the things that goes on here. But, it is what it is. And, I'm just trying to keep this coaching thing alive, man. It's hard working with fighters. It's hard finding guys who are dedicated. So, just one day at a time, I'm trying to take this coaching thing, see where it takes me.
But, so you came out of that last fight, 2016. You fought, fought for a title, a really good fight. You were doing pretty damn good in that fight. You went against John Duma, who is actually turning pro next month, but you went against him. You had a pretty damn good fight. You dropped him a couple of times, got caught in a submission, but you had a good showing. It seemed like a great fight. And what went through your mind after that fight that made you want to go into the coaching and kind of give up actually fighting in the cage?
I would just have to say, it was a lot about money, man, for me. I love fighting. It's so fun to me. I really enjoy it. I was decent at it. I wasn't the greatest fighter ever, but I had some skill. And I had fun, man. And I just felt like I experienced everything I had wanted to experience. And that was logical, at least. And that was worth my health to me. And I just thought about the tomorrow. I want to be able to own a house. I want to have my own business. I want to be an entrepreneur. And, hopefully retire one day and do all right, and considering the landscape of MMA nowadays, that's a tough call to make.
Yeah.
It's hard to rely on MMA for money, and it's hard to rely on your body for 20 years to make money, And I know a lot of guys, man, who retired from fighting and they have nothing now, and they're broken and they have nothing. So it's just a tough thing for me to go through myself, and I wanted to make sure that I was all right. As much as I enjoyed MMA, as good as I did against Duma, and as good as a fighter he is, it was just, I just felt like the smart thing to do in the long term was to reserve my brain cells and pass on knowledge and make money, on the side, and do the things I want to do.
Well, that's awesome, Brian. I mean, I would imagine, and you are more valuable to these fighters with that knowledge. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a long road. Like, I mean, you've been fighting since you had your first fight is 2009. Last fight in 2016, and you're still in an Army having a great time. But when it comes down to reality, you need to make some money, and you need to have your wits about you to make that money if you want to go kind of in the coaching route like you do. So I commend you and applaud you on that that decision, because as far as a fighter and you doing it for so long and you've been through so many friends and camps, because you fought all over. You fought for at least 5 or 6 different promotions. Been to the killer camps all around New England. So for a guy like you, that must be even more a tougher battle to want to leave that, and for you to do that, and then now you're coming back and giving back with the knowledge you gained through the years. All the props to you, my friend. It's a great job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I enjoy it, man. I love seeing people accomplish things they want to accomplish. I wouldn't recommend fighting for anybody, but anybody who wants to do it, I'll help you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, definitely.
It's a fun game, man. You know what I mean? And it's a tough game, and emotionally, sometimes when I watch Diego fight and some of my other friends fight, man, I might as well be in there myself. It's stressful. So like, for me personally, man, I can only take so much fighting in my life, because it really swings me, my emotions. It really brings me up and down, depending how things go. So. I'm a very emotionally involved guy, and sometimes you got to step up to the side when you start getting like that,
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, you can get, caught up in blah, 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 you can't stop to really, think what's going on, and it's like, it's just, repetitious at that point. But now, I mean, someone like you who's been in the game for a while, I mean, you've trained with killers who, have gone to the UFC and they're still having really great careers there. For you to take that knowledge and what you've experienced over the years and be able to give it to the the new generation, as you said, you want to teach these kids the right way, and maybe they can learn by your mistakes in the past, and they got someone to kind of mentor them and tell them, what's going through their head is actually, that's normal for a fighter, because like you said, it's stressful. They can spaz out. I mean, they can be the toughest fighter and beat the shit out of anyone in the gym, but once they get in that cage, man, it's a different thing that goes through their head. So when they got somebody who's been there and been through the battles, man, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah, man, and I remember when I first got into MMA, and to me, man, I felt like at the time, like I just had this huge book of possibilities, and I was just trying to figure each one of them out, and it was completely the wrong way, you know what I mean? And one thing that I'm just trying to pass to guys nowadays is you got to pick a path, you got to walk down that path, and then you got to run down that path, and then you got to sprint down that path, and like, there's a fast path to success in MMA, but you have to know which route to take. So many guys are trying to learn everything all at once and put everything together at the last minute, and you don't need all that, and I really try to pass that to Miguel, and I'm doing it with Diego today, and, dude, it'll show results eventually, you know what I mean? And a lot of years, man, a lot of time in the gym, you learn a lot, man, especially seeing guys like the Techie, Tony Martin, Jorge Rivera, Bobby Flynn. I spent a lot of time training with him back in the day, I've seen a lot of good guys, man. Louis Felix, man, has given me more black eyes than I can remember, man, And I was there the first day that Andre Sukumtsev came into the US MMA, man, I was probably one of the first guys to give him a bloody nose,
That's awesome.
So, like, man, I've seen it all, man, I've seen all different levels. I've seen guys climb. I've seen guys fall. I've seen guys be studs and never, ever even take a fight,
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of different things happen, man, and it's crazy what you can experience in just like 15 years of your life,
Yeah.
And it'll just change the perception of your whole life.
Excellent. So now that we're on a roll here, I want to go on to as far as New England MMA, and I want your take on what's going on, what you like, what you see out there right now as far as in the past and how it's growing in New England and all around the country and the world. MMA is basically a mainstream sport compared to 2009, 2009, it was still a little shaky, and you know, even on the regional circuit, you know, I would imagine it was even more shaky. And but what's your take now? What do you see now in local MMA? Let's first talk about the good. What do you see good out there? Good things happening. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, honestly, like, what's the cool thing about the local MMA scene, man, is, like, if you look back at the way that it started, it was, you know, we always had a long, you know, fighting history in New England as it was, you know, and then you got that huge Brazilian influence in you know, the late 90s, and, you know, all those guys started bringing jiu-jitsu over, and eventually guys started bringing over, you know, the possibilities of fighting Vale Tudo and this and that. And then it turned into MMA, dude, and you see it all over now. There's a lot of Brazilians around. There's a lot of American guys around doing the thing. You know, seeing Sityodtong, you know, you got guys like Juniko out there. And, you know, it's just a cool history out here, man. You know, if you really pay attention to what goes on out here, you know, there's a long history between Florian and Lozon and, you know, Rivera and all the guys who fought in the UFC and out of New England, man. I mean, the history here is cool, you know. But there's a lot of issues, too, you know. Like, the National Athletic Commission has really left a lot of things to be desired by the way they do things, you know, allowing some fights to happen that they shouldn't be, you know, considering, you know, if they're really honoring suspensions and, you know, the causes for suspensions, you know. I can take you back to, like, 3 fights where a doctor didn't even check me after my last fight, you know. And, like, how can you even know if I don't have a concussion if, you know, you haven't even checked me out, you know? How can I fight in a week, you know?
Yeah, it's...
And, like,
Go ahead.
It's a lot of craziness, man.
It almost seems like, because, you know, Brian, I go to, you know, you've been to so many, you know, hundreds of fights and stuff. You know, I go to a lot of local shows, and, you know, I talk to fighters behind the scenes, and it seems like, you know, commissions and sometimes refs and stuff like that just aren't on the same pages from different events to different events. It almost seems like they're inventing the wheel again when they're in the back room, like telling the rules of the fights. This fight is, you know, confused. Like, you know, last card I was on, I could throw elbow, I could do this, I could now, you know, now you took it away. And so, is there anything like that you see that there's miscommunication out there?
I mean, there's a lot of it, man. I mean, look at my last fight. I mean, I'm not one like to criticize judges and all these guys like that. You know, like after a fight, I don't like doing that. You know, you win, you win, you lose.
Yeah.
You know, but like my opponent took a beating, man. You know what I mean? Like he took a serious beating. Like nobody at amateur level should be taking that kind of punishment. You know, and there's no reason for it. And like it's just lack of education on the ref's part, lack of experience, lack of knowing anything about MMA. You know, and it's terrible for the sport in the long run. You know, these matchups, some of these matchups that are being made, you know, should not be allowed by the commissions, you know, and it's affecting everything in a big way, man, you know. Like, a lot of people complain about judging and stuff like that. I don't really pay too much attention to that because guys should be letting fights go to decision anyways. But, like, some of these calls that you see from the refs and some of these matchups that are being made, it's worrisome, man, you know. It's you wonder why you're even paying taxes for this, you know.
Yeah.
Why am I getting checked for this, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they need to have, I mean, I know it's, you know, it's not a perfect system, and you know, every day that we're growing it to make it better, and new things are coming in. But it just seems like the same problems over and over again, and there's no one really out there to fix it or to say anything about it to fix it. It seems like when someone questions it, it's, you know, around for a couple of days, but then it's on to the next card, and where everyone's a little confused again. And, you know, as fans and some of the media, we don't see what's, you know, I know it's a tough sport and to manage it and all. We don't really see what goes on back there, but it just seems sometimes they pick and choose what they're gonna, like, their battles kind of thing. And I know they have to, but it just seems like some of the important things they let go, and then they micromanage the stuff that they can kind of just not look at, you know what I mean?
And there's got to be some way to figure these problems out, and, you know, these fighters are being affected in a hard way. And,
you know, it isn't like the commissions, there's money coming into them. I mean, they're getting paid to do this.
They're making tons of money.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, I don't have the answers on how to fix it, but I'm a guy, like, if I see, you know, some things I don't understand, I throw it out there on social media just to get some answers and stuff, and some shit's touchy and some's not. but someone's going to throw some kind of shit out there every so often and get people thinking, and so something's changed down the line. I know it's fighting and fighters need to fight and all this other stuff, but some of the stuff, you know, is ridiculous at times with commissions. Some refs, I mean, they make mistakes, but it just seems when the crowd can actually see the tap or something and the ref can't, that's a little disturbing. But yeah, there's a lot of things, and it's just not New England, it's all around. But as far as like,
I think we're going in a direction that's changing though. Like, so these kinds of shows, like that whole thing with Dana White starting the fight series.
Yeah.
I think that something like that is going to really give guys the opportunity to shine a little more. So like, there's going to be less matchups needed where you're giving, you know, quote unquote tune-up fights. There's going to be less of those, you know, because guys got to fight for that opportunity to get in that contender series now. You know what I mean? And you've got to get your name out there. You got to be quality guys now. You know what I mean? It's gonna add a new element to it, and I think that as MMA grows a little bit, and these little kinds of things pop up a little more for fighters to get the opportunity to get the exposure, it's gonna kind of kill these tune-up fights a little bit more, you know. And we just need time, and the system just needs to be constantly worked.
Exactly. I mean, it's baby steps, Ryan. Like, you know, it's not like an overnight thing. And like you said, this new opportunity with this new show Dana's bringing out, which a lot of our New England fighters are going to be on. And so there's a lot of our guys following in their footsteps, women too. I mean, I would imagine there's going to be women on that show down the line too. And we got a few of them, you know, hanging around New England that could do a showing. So that shows a huge opportunity for all fighters around the country. And like you said, they got to step up their game. If they're the cream of the crop, that's the place where they're going to be fighting. So, you know, good for these opportunities for these kids. And I can't wait for all of it to, you know, to come.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to definitely put some guys in the spots they deserve to be. You know, there's some fighters around here, man, that I have no idea how they're at the next level. You know, Matt Bessette being the main one. You know what I mean? This guy is like crazy high level, man. You know, and all he needs is the experience and the matchups to get there. You know, and it can be tough sometimes because then all of a sudden a guy like Matt Bessette goes and gets that big first fight. You know, and he, you know, maybe he's going to run into some issues, you know, handling the pressure and stuff like that. Not saying that's going to happen to Matt himself, but, you know, I've seen it happen to other guys, you know. And when you get there, it's tough. It might, that might be your only opportunity, you know. So these kinds of things that kind of give guys a little bit of a step in between, rather than just going from a CEF to just straight up in the UFC to get a tough fight. You know, those are never the easy steps to make, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, fighting at that, you know, at that opportunity, you're not fighting like the top. They're not throwing you into the fire like it's not a short notice fight, because that was one of the issues I was afraid for Matt. They were going to throw him to the Lions with, like, you know, a week's notice fight. But they're letting them properly train for these fights. So, you know, they're going to be able to put on a good showing.
No, I agree, you know, but what's tough about the game right now is that there's a lot of really, really young guys coming up with, you know, fantastic records, especially overseas. You know, you got guys in Brazil coming out at like 20 years old, and they're 18-1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you put a guy like Matt Bessette out there who's, you know, 23-7, you compare the records, you know, at a quick glance. You know, you say, oh, who's my better buy? Is it this guy at 20 or is it Matt Bessette at almost 30, you know? And this kind of, like, that business thinking is kind of what caused me to retire, too, because I know that these things happen behind the scenes, you know? And that's why a guy like Matt Bessette can't get an opportunity, because he knows, everybody knows that if they go and they put him against their 21-year-old guy who's going to be a star in 5 years, you know, it's going to be bad for them, because Matt Bessette's almost 30, or he's already over 30.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't want to take the opportunity to give that guy his time to shine because of his age, you know? And that's what's so difficult about this game, man, you know? The time and the investment, it's everybody's gambling a little bit when they're investing in you, and coaches, organizations, you know, promoters, and it just causes a lot of pressure on the fighter and everything. And, man, it's a tough spot, man.
Yeah. And, you know, as far as Matt did talk about that same thing. He's like, you know, the UFC wants these young, good-looking fighters with good records because they're going to sell the product. And a guy like Matt, being, like you said, around, 30 years old or so, can come in there and spoil the party. He could come in there and just like take all them guys out, which I believe he's going to do anyway. But they're giving him it took a while for them to give him a shot to do that. So you know, all the props, and he's got a massive following. I mean, you talk about the guys, these young kids coming up from Brazil with the good records. I mean, a lot of them don't have the following Matt has too. You know, on social media, and the kid's got basically all of New England on his back. So they had to give him his opportunity eventually, and they have. So it's good for him. Good for Greg Ribello. Good for a bunch of people. We got Carlos Candelario go on there. We got a couple other fighters that, you know, it hasn't been announced, but I've heard a couple other names heading on to weeks ahead on that show. So like you said, that thing's a huge opportunity. And it looks like they're coming and grab a lot of our fighters, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, man, the talent pool around here, man, like, for, you know, the New England fight scene is pretty small if you compare it to, like, the South Florida fight scene and, you know, California. But, man, the amount of talent that we pump out at a high level for our volume and the lack of numbers that we have is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's no joke. You know what I mean? These guys come to fight, you know. We have a reputation of getting down and gritty, and you know, people know when they're going to fight somebody from New England, man. It's not going to be an easy fight.
Yeah, and the thing about there's a lot of, you know, cross training going around here. So there's super friggin' MMA fighters out there. I mean, guys getting looks everywhere. Cross training is becoming a big thing with a lot of fighters. Some fighters like to stay where they are, but a lot of fighters are branching out and getting other looks, and they're kind of building New England kind of against everybody. I mean, eventually, you know, we got to fight each other here and there because we're going to be the best around. But for now, it's kind of like they're bringing people in from town, or they're sending us out of town to fight people, you know?
Yeah, you actually want to hear a funny story about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember when I fought Ben Peake, I forgot, I think it was in Lowell, you know, for Victory Promotions or something like that. And I remember looking back recently and just thinking, like, man, I was in the weigh-in. I was at the weigh-ins. Everybody that currently trains at Juniko was sitting at separate tables with separate teams. Now we all train together. You know, I remember showing up for weigh-ins that day, and Peter Barrett was sitting with somebody who was in a quarter at that show with somebody, and then Kalini was at her table with her team, and then, like, I remember seeing Rodrigo coming in there with somebody else, and now we all train together, man. So it's kind of weird how that happened. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
you saw Wu back in the day. I used to train with him at Dragon Lair, and then I come across him at Sityodtong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just constantly, it's like an NFL roster, man. You know what I mean? You got your free agents, you got your guys who are signed. You know what I mean? It just kind of keeps going, and it's kind of cool too. You know, it blends the talent.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I think that's what separates MMA from, you know, most of the other major sports. It's the camaraderie that you can beat the shit out of each other. Like you just mentioned, and you training with these guys. Your last fight was against John Duma. I think John Duma, doesn't he head down to Sityodtong and spar down there when getting ready for fights? I mean, you have to see him here and there, and you were in like a war with that kid, and you guys at some point are gonna cross paths and, you know, spread knowledge, because it's getting the area better, and it's like you said, it's an amazing thing. We're like I don't even know who we are. We're our own world in New England as far as, you know, MMA and combat sport talent in general.
Oh, for sure. New England has its own style. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that. You know, if you look back at Joe Lozon and you look back at, like, Jorge Rivera, I mean, none of them were really known for, like, you know, going in there and just technically, you know, outthinking you. Those guys went in there and they just killed you, you know, and it was that every time, you know. And I think that there's just something in New England, something about the winter and, you know, the workman-like mentality. And everybody here works a full-time job because it's just so expensive to live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody freezes their asses off 9 months of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, there's just a greediness and a hunger here that you can't teach anywhere else.
Excellent. All right, my friend, I want to ask you a couple of questions about who do you see right now as far as, you know, maybe an EME teetering on the pro side, or pros you see right now that are going to be like factors, you know, in New England or traveling out of New England. What do you see right now in the talent? Because we have a lot of cards. We got a big CES card coming up next month, which has a bunch of amazing matchups, and you know, we got Cage Titans. We got another Premier card that's going to be in New York. So what do you see right now? Who are you high on that you see that's going to be factors right now?
One big matchup that I would definitely pay attention to for anybody who's a fan around here is Joe Giannetti versus Peter Barrett. That is one of the biggest matchups we've had in a long time locally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a big fight, man. You know, for both those guys. You know, Peter had a tough fight in his last fight. You know, And, he's had, quite a few battles where he just looked amazing. And Joe Giannetti, man, just can't lose, man. You know what I mean? He always somehow, he goes into a fight, people just not knowing if he's really going to win, and then boom, he just comes out looking like he's a champion every time. And he just got that winning factor. You can't teach that. And that's what's so awesome about Joe. You watch him at first, maybe you're not too impressed, but then as you watch him go, you're like, man, this guy, you just can't kill him, and he just keeps coming back, and he just beats you. He's amazing, man.
And that breaks you right there. I mean, you, like you said, you could be like thinking you're winning this fight, and this guy's just not going down. So it kind of breaks you a little bit, going, what do I got to do to like take this fucking guy out? You know what I mean?
Oh, tell me about it, man. I know one too well.
So, all right, so he's Peter Barrett. So that's great for Peter. He's getting, he had that, like you said, that tough fight. So he's jumping on it. He's getting right back on the next card. So good for him, man. I talked to Sean Lally about him, and Peter. He said Peter was jumping out. He was going to be ready to go, and you talking about that fight. I'm excited to see Peter come back in that matchup.
Oh, for sure, man. And there's a few more guys too, man, that I just can't wait to watch, man. There's a few guys, man. Manny Bermudez is always beating everybody. Lucas Cruz is super exciting. Chris Moutinho, I mean, come on, man. You can't teach that kind of grittiness, Brendan Battles is, probably the most talented heavyweight ever to come out of this area. And, of course, we got Rob Font fighting, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, he's fighting.
Rob Font is about to break in the top 10,
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, that'll be a good fight, man, for sure.
All right, last thing I want to ask you, you got any fighters that you're kind of, I know you're at Sityodtong, you got a bunch of fighters coming up on cards and stuff. Anybody you're going to be cornering in the next couple of cards? Anyone you're training? Anyone we should be high on that you're training right now that we should be looking out for?
Diego will be on the next Premier card in New York, actually. We've actually put him in to get a fight on that night. And we're pretty close to securing a matchup. We already got somebody in line. We're just trying to get both parties to agree, and then we'll release the matchup. But, Diego's going to get some big experience down in Staten Island, down at the New York Yankees minor league ball team. It's at their stadium. So, that'll be super exciting and fun.
Excellent.
Another guy that you should really watch out for is just continue to watch Miguel Cuevas, man. Miguel's had a great run. I remember working with him, back at day one. We haven't worked with each other much in a while, but, he's down over there with Team Lincoln. Marco's doing a great job with him. He's working a lot with Pat Casey, and Pat Casey, he's doing an excellent job working with Miguel, man. So keep an eye on Miguel, dude. He's a gamer, and he's a lot like Joe Giannetti, man. He just always comes out there ready to win, always on weight, ready to fight, and he's just tough to beat, man. Just a real tough guy to beat. Heart of a lion.
Yeah.
That's what you look for, man. Especially the coach, what you look for is the heart of the lion, and these guys have it, man. Diego and Miguel, man. For two guys that I'm starting with, those guys are perfect. You know what I mean?
And then three guys you just mentioned, Pat Casey, Miguel, and your boy Diego right there. They're all on that Premier card, and that card's.
Oh yeah, man.
That card's in September. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other killers in there. I'm sure she's going to be bringing in some New York talent in there to kind of challenge some of the mass guys. So I can't wait. As far as you, my friend, thank you for coming on. How do we get in touch with you? How do we see you? How do we get trained by you and all that good stuff?
Hit me up on Facebook, man. I'm always on Facebook, Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Hit me up over there. I'm looking to help anybody out, man. Anybody that wants help, anybody that feels like they don't get enough attention or they don't get enough one-on-one time. I'm always open, dude. I don't charge anybody for training. I just like learning. I just like passing information and taking in information. I like learning. You know what I'm saying? So anybody that wants to come out and learn and wants to have some help, and somebody to hold pads to them, whatever, man. I'm always down, man. I just like helping guys out. I don't get attached to the whole team thing. You know what I mean? I'm loyal to my team at Sityodtong, but anybody outside that wants help, just not fighting for my home squad, I'm down, man. So hit me up, and we'll work.
Excellent, Bryan. Bryan, thank you so much for coming on. I'll talk to you again soon because we got a bunch of shit going on. We got a bunch of, cards in New England happening. And there's always some kind of drama that is going on that I might stir up or, we might hear about. And, when we have information to share in the back, we can get it together and share it up front on social media. So I thank you for coming on and giving us some insight of what's going on out there in little bit about your career and what you're doing for these up-and-coming New England fighters of ours. So, Bryan, thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you, man. It was great talking to you, man.
All right, buddy. I'll see you soon.